You're listening to the Becoming More Me podcast with me, Theresa Lear Levine. You're already enough. But if you're anything like me, you thrive when you're stretching and developing yourself, creating more of the person you feel called to be. This podcast is here to inspire and support you. Let's release the negative, reinforce the positive, and elevate our vibe together as we tap into our limitless potential to transform and grow. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today for this episode of Becoming More Me. And I have the pleasure today of interviewing Winnie Chan Wang for the show. And we met through a group that we're both part of. And I feel like she's just such a kindred spirit. So she's a lover of science and spirituality, and her vision is for medicine to join as one. And Winnie has lots of really cool credentials. She's a trauma-informed licensed acupuncturist. She's a teacher, a shadow worker, Reiki and shamanic Tao healer, as well as a professor in acupuncture at Alhambra Medical University. She's passionate about empowering people with chronic pain to step into their source power and heal themselves. And like so many people who love what they do and are good at it, she stepped into this through her own personal experiences and challenges. And she often works with clients that experience anxiety and depression and a feeling of stuckness in their emotional and physical pain. I can totally relate to that. And she believes the key to healing is to stand powerfully in our authenticity. And I can't wait to dive in and hear more about it all. I know she and I started talking before we hit record, and I was like, we just need to hit record because we have great conversations and people should not be missing out on this. So welcome, Winnie. I'm so glad that you're here to spend some time together and share your radiant light and loving spirit with our audience.
Thank you so much, Theresa. I am so excited to become more me with you on the show live. Let's do it.
Awesome. Absolutely. So I guess the best place to start is by learning a little bit more about you and, not just your credentials, but like how you became so passionate and compassionate about like self-healing and even maybe some of the challenges that you faced personally along the way that kind of paved the way for you in this field.
Sure. I'd like to paint a little picture of my upbringing. So I am an Asian immigrant from Hong Kong. And in my culture, in case you don't know, just 100 years ago, people bind women's feet. So what that means is that parents will willingly break their children's feet and bind them so that they're very small. And the reason they do that is because that is a status symbol, right? So the whiter your skin and the smaller your feet, it means that you are not a farmer. You didn't have to go out into the fields and do hard labor. If your skin was very white, it means that you are rich and you have servants. And if your feet are small, it also means you don't need to wash dishes, cook, or clean. You just have servants. As you can imagine, that is just about the most disempowering thing for women because it means that you're basically chained to your house. It's basically a form of prison. You don't get to work and you have no relationship outside of this house. You're dependent on your parents giving you an arranged marriage. And basically, you are a victim. You're at the mercy of your parents and your future husband. And then once you get married, you are at the mercy of your mother-in-law, yada, yada, yada. And so my story, and I wrote a book about this, is called Honoring Darkness, Embrace Shadow Work to Nourish and Grow Your Power. It really starts off about my childhood and how I developed this, I guess you can say, victim mindset where I'm completely disempowered. I was groomed to be a people pleaser, right? To please my parents. And this is very much not their fault, but it's cultural, right? 100 years ago, we bind women's feet.
Yeah, it's not really that long ago in the scheme of things.
Yeah, it's really not that long ago. And it's so funny how many things we take for granted now because the fact that I am an acupuncturist, I can make my own money. If I'm not happy in a marriage, I can just say, see you later. And, I can buy my own house, I can have my own job. But 100 years ago, these women were literally locked in prison. And so, and
Was
it's
your mom
really,
subject to that kind of like the foot binding and things like that?
no, but my mother is like more interesting story because so my grandmother escaped the Cultural Revolution where anyone who was educated and had money was basically punished and sent to kind of like concentration camp. And there was a lot of um, challenges that were thrown at people who were educated and had money. So many textbooks were burned. And my grandmother was a very, very brave woman. She actually just grabbed a diploma, grabbed my parents, and smuggled like refugee under the night of sky and rode in the little boat and escaped to Hong Kong. And so actually, my parents, both my mom and dad grew up poor, and then there was like World War II and all these things. So it's just like these victim mindset was what I knew and what I grew up with. This
Yeah.
idea that okay, money doesn't come so easily, and you have to fight and compete and work hard to get everything that I have. And so I spent most of my life working really hard. I have 2 degrees from MIT and 4 science degrees and all this medical degrees, etc. Until one day I realized life is a relationship game, right? And that's why we have this podcast, and that's why I love Theresa and this opportunity to collaborate. And that's why I love, having this opportunity to connect with your audience, because it doesn't matter what I know. And it doesn't matter what skill I have. It's who I know, who do I get to breathe with, who do I get to support,
Right.
and who do I get to receive support from.
Absolutely.
That
Relationships are
actually
everything.
matters, because I'm not an island, right?
Yeah. I mean, we can help ourselves a whole lot. And I know that you've applied what you know to yourself as much as one can, but that gets kind of boring after a while because as we apply things to ourselves, we get so much better at them and even more like powerful in what we can do. And then it really hurts to not share it with other people.
Yeah, so I am really learning how to receive.
Yeah. It's funny how hard that is, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I would say 90% of female clients I work with, they have difficulty receiving. And I think they're like me in terms of having thousands of years of patriarchy. We learned that to survive, it's like work hard, get a college degree, apply a job, buy a house. And it's almost you just in this formula uh to climb the ladder.
Yeah. And probably
And
burn out in the process.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's all just like
exactly.
struggle and strive. And I know my mind was blown when I realized how much I can get done with thought alone. It's like, whoa, really? Like, I don't actually have to spend my day moving mountains. Like, that's pretty cool.
And what I realize is sometimes if I just tell other people what my problem is, everyone wants to help me.
Yeah, the solution comes.
So one of the ancient Confucian philosopher, Mengzi, he says, the human nature is kind,
Mhm.
like water wants to go downstream.
Yeah.
Right. So every human being that I meet on the street, I'm like, you are kind and you really want to help me because just like water wants to flow downwards, you want to help me. So now I have changed my worldview from I'm a victim, I'm survive, I'm here to make it on my own, is I walk around, everybody wants to help me.
Yeah, right.
Everybody
When that's
wants
where
to
your
be
focus
kind to me.
is,
Yeah.
it's what you find. It's kind of like when we were talking right before we hit record, and you were talking about how what was the phrase that you said? You were talking about
Yeah. So
loving the process instead of trusting the process.
exactly.
And
So a lot of the times when we do transformation, life coaching, one of the phrase I hear a lot is trust the process. And honestly, I was like, WTF? Why did the teacher or coaches keep telling me, trust the process, trust the process, trust the process? I'm like, I don't trust the process. You can't make me trust the process. I feel like sometimes the coach says trust the process just because they want me to shut up. Like they're like, okay, I've heard enough from you, Winnie. Like you can shut up now. Just trust the process.
see,
Um,
I have another philosophy there that when we resist that, that's when all the things come up that we actually need to resolve, and then we actually can trust the process. Because I can look at that in both ways and say, trust the process and hit the wall of resistance in saying that and not feel it at all. Or I can genuinely feel like I'm trusting the process. I'm seeing it through. And in that sense, it's probably more like what you were saying, where it's like, love the process. Like, I am really leaning into this and allowing it instead of resisting it. So I think like trust the process can be good, but it depends on the emotion and the belief that's behind it when you're saying it. Just like, I guess, everything really. If it's got upstream thoughts associated with it, it's going to be all the resistance. And if it's got downstream thoughts associated with it, it's going to take you there faster. And yeah, so I thought that was kind of fascinating, because it really does come down to what we're feeling behind what we're trying to heal or accomplish. That's for sure.
Yeah, so what I realized was 18 months ago, my lesson was to trust the process. And recently, I'm flipping the script to love the process. And the idea being trust feels very almost disempowering because it feels very out of control. It feels like, well, I don't know how things are going to go. I have a lot of fear, and I'm just going to almost feel like spiritual bypassing. It's like Winnie's head is filled with fearful thoughts, but Winnie, another voice of Winnie says, oh no, trust the process.
Yeah.
So it almost feels like I'm ignoring and not validating the fears and just forcing myself to trust the process. And so I kind of resented almost Winnie trying to suppress Winnie's fears by telling me to trust. And the breakthrough that I have is if I say, love the process. And why is because I have perfect control over loving the process. I don't have to love, okay, like let's say I am doing a push-up, okay, just I don't actually love push-ups, but I think this analogy is easy for people to understand. Okay, let's say I'm trying to get from 10 push-ups to 15 push-up. So the last 5 push-up is gonna feel like it's gonna feel very, very challenging. So while I'm doing the last 5 push-up, which is a stretch, I can either hate it or I can love it. And what I love about it is the growth. Okay, after I push myself to do 5 more push-ups, then I'm going to get stronger. So what I can do is commit to loving the growth,
Yeah.
right? So when I say I'm going to love the process, what that means is I know that I'm going to love the growth. And so therefore every minute I can be in love because it doesn't matter what happens. Truly, I can love the opportunity for growth in every single minute.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's not really about getting to the goal or the outcome. It's about how you feel along the way, which is the only way you can get to the outcome anyway. But when people don't feel good on their way to an outcome, then they get to the outcome. It doesn't feel good to achieve it.
Yeah, so I feel that asking me to love the growth is easier than asking me to trust the unknown because,
Or to love the push up. Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't love push-ups, but I do them and I do feel better when I can do them with greater ease, which definitely happens when I push myself to do more of them. So I can totally appreciate that analogy. Absolutely. And I know a lot of your work is centered around healing, which is very growth oriented also. What would you say like your healing philosophy is?
Yeah, my healing philosophy is that everyone is already perfect.
Hmm.
Everybody is born perfect. And so it's very perfect because you said becoming more me, right? So the me that we came as babies was already perfect.
Yeah.
But then, parents and society kind of put some dark clouds around our light. So my philosophy is, can we look past the dark clouds to know that the sun is always there? And so always my work, I have this 11-week group healing program. It's about seeing past the dark clouds to
Yeah.
get to the real you, right? And some people are like, oh, Winnie, well, you're an acupuncturist, right? You deal in the realm of like lower back pain, infertility, supporting people going through chemotherapy. Why did you get into shadow work? And the answer is because majority of illnesses come from our mind,
Yeah. Emotional
right?
causes.
Yeah, exactly. So whether people have high blood pressure, autoimmune, you can actually trace back to the root cause. A lot of times autoimmune people have negative self-talk, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
what is autoimmune? Autoimmune is me attacking me,
Yep.
right? So then what I find is we got to give up negative self-talk if you want to heal autoimmune. So yes, I practice medicine, but that's actually just maybe 10% of my passion.
Yeah.
It's great because a lot of clients, they come to me with like autoimmune or they want to lose weight or, they're trying to get pregnant. They have a real life
Yeah.
physical health problem. But then at the end of the day, I still have to do coaching on top of that because I always say, people say, hey, Winnie, can you help me lose weight? I said, yeah, but if you're going to eat 21 cheeseburgers a week, there's nothing I can do to
Right.
overcome 21 cheeseburger, right?
Yeah.
So,
It's
you know,
all connected. Like you said, like you
exactly,
practice medicine and people, but your emotional work makes it greater. I practice emotional freedom at the heart of what I do, but my clients end up getting medical benefits. Like
exactly.
it all winds together, and it's all connected. So I love that you see the whole of that, because a lot of people who practice medicine primarily don't always honor all of that. And I think like that contrast of the dark and the light with our shadows and everything else is so important, and it makes it so much easier to appreciate when things are good too, when when we've been able to see that dark side too.
Yeah, so that's why one of my passion is really in education because I really want as many practitioners of healthcare to go into the mental emotional side. And you don't have to be a specialist in everything, but for example, if you're an oncologist, it would be really helpful if they say, hey, maybe you should check out EFT tapping, maybe you should check out acupuncture, maybe you should get talk therapy, right? It's just
Right.
it's like I really believe that everyone should have a village of support.
Yeah.
I've had clients who have breast cancer for the fifth time. And then
Wow.
because people think that just getting chemotherapy or radiation or surgery, and then because that's what the practitioner knows, right?
Right.
But if you think about it, we haven't got to the root cause of why the cancer was there in the first place.
Right.
Right. So it's kind of like you keep trimming off the cancer, but until you got to the root cause, why you have cancer,
Indeed.
then, we're still, stuck in this wheel. So
Yeah.
that's why it's so great that you do EFT tapping, because we do need to be free from these patterns that we have.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many modalities that can complement and benefit each other. And I'm always happy, like when I see my clients like doing multiple things. Like, I don't know about you, you probably have clients that also like they might come to you for acupuncture, but then go to somebody else for something else. And it all like works together and it's beautiful for healing. So what's your favorite way to approach trauma healing with what you do? Because I know that's
Yeah.
for you too.
The most important approach I have is to look at it like playing video game. Honestly, because there's no undo button in healing trauma. If you lost a leg in the war, the leg is not growing back. If you've been raped, there's no undo button on the rape. So what happened is what happened. However, there is a way to heal so that you can get in touch with that original wholeness, that essence when you were born as a baby, that you are not scarred, resentful, jaded, and, walking through life with all this heaviness. And that's why I really am passionate about this, because there is a way to unlock your light, right? That light that you were born when you were a baby, right? So it's kind of like, okay, I can't grow a leg back and there's no undo button on the rape, but what if I can connect to the state when I was a baby, right? Before I've been clouded with all the dark clouds, can I go back to the baby state? And so that's really what my passion is how to get back to that innocent state when you want to flirt with everybody, you want to learn everything and you're curious, right? You go to the playground. One of the things they say is people don't know ethnicity or race until they're 5 years old, and people don't know gender until they're 2 years old, right? So when we're born baby, there's no distinction and discrimination. We don't discriminate women. We don't discriminate like based on skin color.
Yeah.
All of that is learned by parents and society. So much of my work is about getting back to baby again.
Yeah, I mean, the older we get, the further away from our source energy and that which we came, we get, and all that stuff does creep in. I think that's why I just like, I love spending time with like my 5-year-old because he's still so much closer to all of that than I am. And he reminds me like what's important and how awesome I am when I don't think I am and all that kind of stuff, it brings you right back. So you like to kind of take people back to that place in their life?
Exactly. And everybody can do it. Everybody.
Yeah, for sure. And I would imagine like for people that battle with that inner victim, like you talked about before, that experience, whether it is from something like you mentioned, like a rape or losing a limb or whatever might have happened, like how do you recommend like really shifting out of that? Like we can go back and we can kind of find that like space in our inner childhood, but like how do you like really shift out of that to like feel good about your life, to like be the author of your life in the way that you want to be?
Yeah. So, in my book, I actually did talk about my rape and the kind of confusion that I was in for years. And it was really interesting because at first I thought that, okay, this guy is gaslighting me and that guy is gaslighting me. And I was in situations where there could be physical, emotional, verbal, sexual abuse. But then what I realized is I get to empower myself by realizing what I let in and what I get to release. And what I realized is that everything is a conversation. So it's really interesting because I was still holding onto my victim card, which is I'm a victim, I'm a victim, I'm a victim, pretty much up until I was 41, 42, when I realized it is actually not true. You know, I actually get to choose what I experience. And so then the question is, how do you do it? And my simple answer is just breathe. That's it, breathe and open your heart. The reason is this, I think there's like a saying that says, we are the five closest people we breathe with, right? So if we surround people with a lot of fear, a lot of hatred, then we're also going to be vibrating in fear and hatred. But if we surround ourselves with people who have a lot of love and light, then we also have a lot of love and light. And which is why I'm so passionate about leading my group coaching program, because it's not just me being the teacher. I also receive from all of my participant, they are also love and light for me, right? So the fact that they raised their hand and said yes to me, it means that they not just want to receive my love and light, but they also want to give me and the community their love and light. And I recently learned this nerdy mathematical formula. It's called E equals CA squared. So E is energy, A is amplitude, square, right? So it's kind of like if you sit in a place where people are gossiping and talking bad about politicians and, blah, 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 then the negative energy is squared, is amplified.
Yeah.
But when we sit in a group program where we're talking about healing and stuff like that, so that also gets squared, right? So if we get 10 people together, 10 squared is 100. So it's really about who you are committed to hang out with,
Yeah.
right? So if you commit to a group program, then you're committed to sharing your love and light and receiving love and light. So that's what I love about this.
Absolutely. Again, like where you focus, you get more of that. So you might as well focus somewhere good. Otherwise, it's just life isn't as rich and wonderful, that's for sure. So I know that you deal with stuckness in people that you work with in all different ways, emotional and physical. And so do I. So I'm really kind of curious about your perspective on this. With my clients, I often see it sometimes like a bit of freeze in there along with the stuckness, like kind of the nervous system response. Like they're afraid to make a decision because they don't want to make the wrong one, or they're scared of making a mistake. What are your recommendations for overcoming fear and getting unstuck?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to give a concrete example. What most people say is, instead of I have to wash dishes, is I get to wash dishes, right? So instead of feeling I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, is I get to.
I never say that about the dishes. I will stick to I have to do the dishes. That's why I had kids. They do them.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
So
with you though. I'm just giving you a hard time.
yeah, yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. And I want to go ahead and be vulnerable and connect to people who this story might resonate with. Okay. So I have two kids, 13 and 15. And for many years, I'm like, oh, I have to drive my kids to school. I have to drive them to soccer practice. And look, this whole weekend is like birthday party and this and
Mhm.
that and blah, blah, blah.
I'm with
Until,
you on this example.
okay, until I had a divorce. So I no longer have my kids 5 days a week or 7 days a week, whichever. So I only get to drive them to school, halftime. And that shifted my lens completely, because my whole life, I have been taking the opportunity to be with my children for granted. I was like, I have to drive. I have to sit in traffic in this pickup line and whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not until I had a divorce and I don't get my kids 24/7 that I really adopted, oh, I get to sit in the pickup line and I really look forward to picking up my kids or driving my kids to school. I get to cook breakfast for them. I get to go grocery shopping because I get to have kids in my house. And it sounds a little bit cheesy, but it's true. It's sometimes life gives you lemons so that you can learn how to appreciate the things that you have. And so whatever conversation that you feel you are stuck in, I think one of the very common is maybe finance.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of my clients, they feel like, I don't know how to get out of it. I'm just living paycheck to paycheck, or, it's like I can never be abundant. And here's the thing, right? Sometimes we go on Instagram and we watch people manifest and chant mantras like, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm money, I'm money, I'm a money. And that actually kind of works, but that's 50% of the equation.
Yeah.
50% of the equation is the positive mindset, which is I am abundant. Because, if you think I am not abundant, then I'm sorry, can't help you. Okay. But you got to chant the mantras, positive affirmation 50% of the time. But then what is the other 50%? The other 50% is the shadow work, where you look at your blockages to abundance,
Yep.
right? You look at why you are afraid of having money.
Yeah.
This sounds ridiculous, but I'm going to tell you that 10 out of my 10 clients who have financial blockages, they are afraid of having money. Maybe they have a conversation that money is evil. Maybe they have a conversation that I don't deserve to have money, or maybe they're afraid of the responsibility of having money. If I have a house, then I have to buy insurance, I have to
Yeah.
maintain it, I have to take care, blah, blah, blah. So, and that's the same with everything. My clients who have love blockages, they're like, oh, I must have negative karma because I keep dating the same guys. And I don't know why, but none of the guys last more than 2 years. Okay. So I have a bunch of clients in that camp. So 50% of the work is, chanting the positive mantra, which is, I am loved, etc. 50% is looking at what are the blockages to love.
Right.
And number one blockage is fear of intimacy, fear of love, and it makes sense because if I love someone, it makes me vulnerable because what if that person dies in a car accident? What if that person cheats on me, right? So what we really have, we fear having love because we fear losing love.
Right. And that stuckness, like that self-sabotage and everything else, I think, it's usually us answering an inner need that we have without actually having to address the problem. It's indirect and it seems like we're not going in the direction that we want to, but like subconsciously, we are going in the direction that we want to. And we just don't want to work out that stuff that's underneath that's more painful to deal with. So we just keep reverting. But I always say it's kind of like weeding a garden when I work with my clients' emotions and they want to feel like that whole like I am abundant, I have $1 million, that kind of stuff. But when they say it, they feel like a total like loser and they're like, this is totally not true. And then it's like, well, we got to weed the garden. We got to get out those negative emotions so that you can actually plant the positive ones and have them grow. Otherwise, they're just going to fire up all the stuff that's underneath of it even more. And you kind of like just keep playing tug of war with yourself and going back and forth and ending up in the same place.
So what I find is that if you don't have spirituality, it is nearly impossible to outgrow the stuckness. And the reason is because if you don't have spirituality, you think what you see is what you have,
Mhm.
right? You think that the number on your bank account balance is real. But when we have spirituality, it's like I am open to receiving grace. I am open to receiving free money. Okay, my favorite example is, during COVID, the government gave us like the small business loan. This is like a forgiveness loan. They just give you money that you never have to pay back. And what I find in my exploration of spirituality is that when we connect to the universe, there is actually free money 24/7 trying to come into my system. And that's why we come back to this word receiving. If my heart is open, then I can receive the free love, free money, and free healing that's just coming my way 24/7.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautifully put. And, as somebody that works with energy healing and loves, for me at least, I love our chakra system and like all of our energy portals and all that, and the way that they line up with our feelings and our challenges in life. I do a lot of like second chakra based work with shame with my clients. What's your perspective on how sharing our shame or that those negative things can help us to heal other people?
Yeah, thank you for the question. The first time I attended a shame circle was 2018, and I was in a group with 24 other women. And so the facilitator had us write top 5 things we're ashamed about. And women wrote about, oh, I stole money from my boyfriend, I cheated, I took drugs, I had an abortion, I couldn't get pregnant. What was interesting was that no matter what was on the card, there was somebody else in the circle who wrote down the same thing. And that is the power of sharing because we realize we're all human.
Yeah, me too.
Exactly, me too, right? So I remember, sharing that I've had an abortion. Now, before that time, I've never told anybody, but I was shocked to find out that 7 out of 24 women in the circle also had an abortion. And I was like, okay, well, I can really finally let go of the shame because look how common it is, right? Like we're not allowed to talk about this, but what gets shared is Brene Brown says shame cannot survive empathy. So the moment we open ourselves to talk about it, that's when it just dissolves.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love Brene. Her work is so meaningful. And I always like get hung up on different quotes of hers, just like, wow, she puts it in just the right way that it makes sense to everybody. So are you currently working with new clients? Where can people find you if they're interested in understanding more of what you do?
Sure, my website is mindfulhealingheart.com. And as a healthcare professional, one of my dreams is that everyone should have access to wellness, regardless of their income level. So that's why I try to do a lot of education and videos and healing on social media. So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, because I really want it to be free and available to everybody, right? I already love you. So please go follow. And if you're interested to do more of the shadow work, I have a book and also a course, an 11-week program. And like I said, I'd be so honored if you share your light with me as well as I share my light with you and in the community. So, yeah, that's what I'm all about.
That is awesome. And I have one more question that I want to ask before we wrap this up related to anxiety, because I know that's something that comes up in my community a ton. And women are always looking for new perspectives on how to release or relieve that. And I know you talk about it kind of like being like a switch that you can, turn on or turn off. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Harvard brain scientists have done this research where one thought generates the chemicals that last 90 seconds. So basically, if you can just catch that thought and interrupt the pattern, then and ride the anxiety out for 90 seconds, then in 90 seconds, you're going to reach peace. You don't have to let anxiety last more than 90 seconds.
So how do
And
you catch it and write it out?
yeah, so I want to share this really funny story. So one time I really wanted to cry, and it was 3:27 p.m. and I had a client coming at 3:30. And I was like, Winnie, this is not a good time to cry. And I hear the car pulling into the parking lot. I'm like, oh crap, here she is. And then so I look around, what can I do? And I see a banana. So I quickly start peeling the banana. I'm like, carb Sue. So I'm just gonna like chug this banana and I'll feel better. My client sits down, and this was almost 2 years ago at the height of COVID before there was vaccine, right? And I just started a coughing storm. And I was so embarrassed because I was like, oh my God, does she think I'm this money hungry practitioner who doesn't have the decency to cancel because I'm clearly coughing?
Were you choking on the banana?
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So you know the story. Okay,
No,
so
I don't know the story, but I'm just like, if I tried to eat a banana that fast, I probably would have trouble too.
but what happened was my train, my of thought went into, does she think I am a bad practitioner? Do I have COVID? And so I went into a full on anxiety. And of course, the more anxiety I have, the more I just couldn't stop coughing. So I fumbled around. I tried to drink water, cough drop, but absolutely nothing can slow down my coughing fit. So at this point, I'm like, okay, Winnie, I don't care if she thinks you're a weirdo, but you're going to plop your ass in the chair and meditate right here, right now. Okay, close your eyes. And the moment I took 3 breaths, I closed my eyes. I actually saw a third eye image of a banana. And I just laughed so hard because, of course, I was choking on a banana. And just like that, the moment I saw the third eye image of a banana and I started laughing, the cough went cold like an off switch. And I was like, this is how empty our physical symptoms are. Okay. It doesn't matter if you have a full on anxiety, panic attack, coughing fit. If you can just realize the emptiness and just turn it off, you can do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have been cultivating coming back to my original wholeness for a while, so I can do it like in 3 breaths. But everybody can practice.
Yep. The better it gets, the better it gets to be, right? That's,
Yeah.
and if people learned nothing else today, then eat your bananas slowly. If one of these other nuggets escaped you, at least we can have some banana eating safety implemented from people watching this show.
Yes, 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 yes. Banana can be dangerous. It is a weapon.
Yeah, they're meant to be eaten a little slower, I think, than
Yeah.
wolfing one down before a client session. That's too funny. And yeah, I think we all had those feelings whenever we coughed for the first couple of years. I think it was just recently. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. I was like, I finally feel like every time that I like have to cough or clear my throat or something, people aren't judging me thinking, how sick is she? Should I stay away or whatever? It's just kind of like we're all kind of getting more normal about feeling that way again. And yeah, because it was tough for a while. Every time we did something that seemed unwell, it was like I think we were all thinking that somebody was judging us, and that was all our own thoughts, not theirs, but still wasn't any fun. So well, thank you so much for coming on today. I always love talking to you, and we had some good stories and things today. So I really appreciate it. I love what you do. I love how you do it, and I just think you're amazing. So I really appreciate you being here today, Winnie.
Thank you so much. And I really wish all of the audience can become more of them.
Yeah, that's what we're all here to do, just become more of who we're meant to be in this world. And one day, one step, one breath at a time, for sure. So I'll make sure all of your information is in the show notes. And thank you all for listening today. Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or post on social media and tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave action steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. Keep shining your light.